These Wall Street guys. You see what they did to this country? They stole from everybody.
Master of your own destiny, Ricky. You up for that?
Yeah.
Hello and welcome to our weekly film show where I'm joined by critic Lisa Nesselson to take us through the week's releases. Hi Lisa.
Hello Olivia.
Now we're starting with a film by veteran British director Ken Loach, who won his second Palme d'Or at the Cannes Film Festival for the film I, Daniel Blake in 2016. Now at the time pundits assumed he was leaving the industry on a high note, but no, he was back again this year with the film Sorry We Missed You. 82 years old when he made that film and 83 now. Tell us more.
Loach is so consistent in his interest in people at the bottom of the wage scale with no social advantages to speak of that some commentators accuse him of always doing the same thing. But you know why? That's because society is still doing the same thing it always does, which can be summed up as finding new ways to exploit and take advantage of working people, no matter how hard they work. The so-called gig economy is deeply insidious, and Loach, working with his regular screenwriter Paul Laverty, shows us that the gig template is destroying families and ruining lives, not just in Newcastle where this is set, but everywhere.
Okay, so in Sorry We Missed You, can you tell us a bit more about the central characters?
Sure. Ricky and Abbie are the hardworking parents of an adorable young girl and a rebellious teen boy who loves to spray paint graffiti. They want their kids to have more opportunities than they've had in life. She's an incredibly dedicated home care professional who visits people who need help eating, getting dressed, doing things for themselves. An agency assigns her to visit various patients, and she gets paid by the visit. Ricky is a day laborer. He's worked construction. He's proud of never having been a day on the dole, but he wants more financial security for his family. So he decides they'll have to sell the car that Abbie really needs to get to all those in-home visits in order to invest in a van and start driving for a package delivery company. Now, the firm sells itself as offering people a chance to be their own boss. But of course, nothing could be further from the truth. Let's take a look.
It's all right, Ricky. It's nothing to worry about. Hitting your figures and getting good feedback, everything's going all right. Just, did you have somebody in the van with you on Saturday gone?
Oh, yeah, it's my daughter, Liza Jane, why?
Yeah, sorry, mate, we can't have that.
Well, it's my van, my insurance, my daughter. I thought it was my business.
Yeah, it is, but it's our franchise, all right? Just had a complaint from one of the clients. Nobody f***s with them ever, mate, all right? It's just one of the first commandments, all right? Cheers.
So as you mentioned, this system where you think you're your own boss, but you're not quite. In French, they call this the Uberization of the workplace.
Yes, and the fact that Uberization is a term that we can all understand, when just a few years ago it wouldn't have meant anything at all, proves how insidious this template for employment really is. Even indentured servants centuries ago could eventually work off their debt, but this is really a hamster wheel. You just get in deeper and deeper, 12-hour days, no time to even urinate except in a plastic bottle inside your van that you either buy yourself or rent from the company for way too much money, fines for being late, parking tickets, an obligation to find your own replacement driver if for some reason you can't work. This beautifully acted film has something important to say about the inherent flaws in the so-called gig economy and the unrelenting fallout of the 2008 financial crisis we're still living with. Terrifying numbers of people in countless countries have a regular job and a gig job on the side. This movie doesn't preach, it just shows us what it's like.
It does feel terrifyingly relevant right now, that's true. Well, next to a film inspired by a true story, which became a viral long-form article in New York Magazine. It's called Hustlers, and it stars Jennifer Lopez and Constance as pole dancing strippers working in New York in 2007. And then they have to adjust their activities after the financial crash of 2008. They have some creative ideas about how to do that. I think it's worth seeing. What do you think?
Oh, this is a very, very interesting movie, written and directed by a woman and starring an array of powerhouse women who are not shy about exposing their toned flesh while using their brains. Now, they may not have college degrees, but they have honorary doctorates in what makes the average American male tick and willing to part with cold, hard cash. Relatively few of us are professional pole dancers, but Hustlers, not unlike Sorry We Missed You, is concerned with what any of us might be willing to do to support our ourselves and our children, and it touches on the morality of stealing money that was probably stolen, more or less, in the first place. So Destiny, played by Constance Wu, is the newest lap dancer at a Manhattan strip club frequented by men making more money on Wall Street than they know what to do with. She works hard, but after the club and the DJ and the bouncer all take their cut, she's left with not very much to give her beloved grandmother with whom she lives outside Manhattan. Destiny is in awe of Ramona, played with fearless oomph by Jennifer Lopez.
Let's call it that.
When scantily clad Ramona pole dances, shimmies, and does the splits, the guys throw money at her. Lots of money. Hell, I wanted to start just throwing money at the screen. The largest financial disaster in U.S. history hits on September 28th, 2008, and a lot of those Wall Street jobs just vaporize. And those traders and raiders have no way to drop $15,000 without blinking in a club night after night. Ramona points out that the money the big fish spent at the club was probably taken from, the fireman's pension fund or the investments of the hardworking people who lost everything.
Okay, so that's the crunch moment in the film. What do these underemployed strippers do then?
Well, they try to go straight. Destiny tries to get a straight job, but she has no retail experience. She certainly doesn't have much formal education. When she runs into Ramona again after a few years, and they both have young daughters to support, Ramona has a plan. They'll be really nice to a guy in a bar. They'll pretend to drink. They'll throw their shots over their shoulders while he really does get drunk, and then they will slip some drugs into his drink, a mixture. The MDMA will make him feel happy, and the ketamine means he won't remember a thing when he comes to, and they've run up a fortune on his credit card back at the club. Now, that's beyond dishonest. But as Ramona puts it, this game is rigged and does not reward people who play by the rules. This whole city, this whole country is a strip club. You've got people throwing the money and people doing the dance. They're making money hand over fist until their luck runs out.
That is a very strong line from the film, I must admit. Let's take a look at Hustlers.
Hi, Ramona.
I'm Gary.
Gary, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Annabelle.
Hi.
Isn't he so cute?
Yes.
So cute. And the eyes.
Hi, Destiny.
Get in his hair.
Thank you.
Can I have three shots? Gary, you know who he looks like, don't you? He looks like Tom Cruise. No, that's Tom Cruise. More skinny. No. It's your smile. It is. I thought it's really good. Mini Bob bag. More sunny. Yeah, he's got a twinkle in his eye. Here we go, guys. Oh, is the wine yours?
Oh, that's it. No, this is...
Oh, okay, cool.
All right.
And interestingly, while this whole thing revolves around the allure of sex, there's no sex in the movie.
Okay, well, next to a very different film that won its protagonist the prize for Best Actor at the Venice Film Festival in September. Tell us more about this Franco-Italian production, Martin Eden.
Well, this is a deeply affecting human saga based on Jack London's 1909 semi-autobiographical novel set in Northern California and updated to, of all places, Naples, Italy, in an indeterminate period that's probably the 1960s. Martin Eden is a poor laborer and sailor who left school before he was a teenager, and he's a happy-go-lucky kind of guy who only has to dance with a girl to win her sexual favors. But his life changes when he defends a young aristocrat from an assailant, accompanying the boy back to the estate where he lives with his parents and his sister Elena. Martin and Elena meet, and it's pretty much love at first sight. Well, at least it is for Martin. Elena is highly cultured, and Martin has working-class manners and no book learning. Taken with the opulence of Elena's family and determined to better himself, Martin starts reading books and decides he wants to be a writer, throwing himself into the dream of living by his pen.
Okay, well, let's take a look at Martin Eden.
Scrivi non si venderà mai e noi non ci sposeremo mai e non saremo mai una famiglia.
Io mi dovrei vergognare di raccontare tutto questo.
Lo scrittore Martin Eden non esiste. È un frutto delle vostre menti. Quello che avete davanti è un malandrino, un marinaio.
So it's kind of a literary awakening, and does gradually turning into an intellectual make Martin happy?
Well, at first he's deliriously happy. He loves using his mind and expanding his vocabulary. He loves observing the life and people around him and trying to render it in poetry and prose, and he has no success at all. The stories are always sent back from the literary magazines he submits them to. He makes friends with a lot of people. An older, well-to-do man who's interested in socialism goes to sea, works in a foundry, all the while reading voraciously and working on his writing and courting Elena long distance. He's forced to think about what socialism thinks for the common man, and he always relies on himself as his ideas expand. The acting and the filming style are lyrical. This was shot on 16mm film, which gives it a very dreamy, sometimes experimental look. I enjoyed this enormously. It keeps you off balance, and it overflows with high-stake emotions.
It does indeed sound lovely. Now, we're wrapping up with a modern French classic, La Piscine, or The Swimming Pool. That's being re-released this week in France.
Yes, everybody can name a few movie stars of yore, but we don't really produce movie stars anymore. People so beautiful and talented that they just seem to burn up the screen, people who give off ravenous sex appeal, people whose faces the camera loves, who move with grace, people like the young Alain Delon and the late Romy Schneider. Now, Jacques Deré's deeply sexy and suspenseful 1969 thriller was a massive hit. This lush, percolating classic was remade in 2015 by Luca Guadagnino as A Bigger Splash, starring Tilda Swinton and Ralph Fiennes. And while that was fun, it doesn't really compare to the original. Can gorgeous people get away with anything? Even murder? Maybe, maybe not. For more about Delon's life and career, film by film, there's a brand new book in French, just came out by Isabelle Giordano. And if you don't read French, you can have hours of fun contemplating the pictures and wondering why it is that we really don't have incandescent movie stars anymore. Well, maybe Jennifer Lopez.
Indeed, maybe you can watch the film without understanding French as well. Thank you very much for joining us, Lisa. We'll leave you with some steamy scenes from La Piscine. Do remember our website, and you can also catch up with us on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. There's more news coming up on France 24 just after this.
Sa fille, à propos.
Quoi, sa fille?
Oh, rien.
Comment tu la trouves?
C'est à toi qu'il faut demander ça.